My dear listener, there comes a time on your journey when you must face the aching truthing. To hold on is to suffer. To let go is to grow. Letting someone go is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of profound spiritual strength. It is the courageous decision to return to the self. Let me offer you 5 key spiritual truths that awaken the soul when you choose to let someone go. When you let someone go, it may seem on the surface like you are releasing them. But in truth, what you are releasing is your own energy that has become entangled with their image. You are not simply parting ways with a person. You are calling back parts of yourself that you unknowingly gave away. You see, we do not fall in love with people as they truly are. We fall in love with what they reflect back to us. They become mirrors of our deepest longings, our unspoken wounds, our forgotten dreams. Without realizing it, we project onto them the qualities we desire in ourselves. We give them our power, our light, even our pain. We hand them the key to rooms in our psyche we have not yet dared to enter. Spiritually, this is called projection, when the unconscious within us sees itself in another. It is not a flaw. It is a necessary part of the soul's development. Through projection, we are shown what lies dormant within. We chase what we already are, disguised in another's form. But there comes a sacred moment, often born of heartbreak, when the veil falls, when you begin to see them not as the god or goddess you made them out to be, but as a human being. Flawed, finite, distinct from you. And in that painful clarity, something divine happens. Your soul begins to reclaim what it had once projected. It is a spiritual homecoming. You start to take back the strength you saw in them and realize it is yours. You retrieve the love you believed only they could give and recognize. It has always lived within you. Even the pain they caused becomes a portal back to yourself. The energy you wrapped around them begins to return to its rightful place, within your own heart. Letting go, then, is not abandonment, it is integration. It is saying, I no longer need you to hold my worth. I no longer need your presence to validate my soul. I reclaim what is mine. This reclamation is subtle but sacred. You feel it in your silence, in the peace that follows the storm, in the space you once filled with obsession, now tender with self-awareness. The person fades, but your soul expands. You do not shrink from the loss. You rise from it. And so, the greatest act of letting go is not forgetting them. It is remembering yourself. Because in truth, you were never mourning just the person. You were mourning the parts of you gave away to feel loved. Now, you are taking them back. Not with resentment, but with reverence. You are no longer lost in someone else's shadow. You are coming home to your light. Certainly, here's a more fully developed and expanded version of the second keynote. You enter the sacred chamber of individuation. Without a heading, written in the motivational and introspective style of Carl Jung. When you decide to let someone go, you step into a silence that is not just emotional. It is deeply spiritual. A threshold is crossed, not in the outer world, but within your own soul. The moment of release becomes the entrance to an inner sanctuary, a sacred chamber that few ever dare to enter. This is the beginning of what Jung called individuation, the lifelong journey of becoming your whole, authentic self. It is not a path for the faint of heart. Letting go shakes the foundations of who you thought you were. It dismantles the identity that was built around the presence of another. You are no longer someone's partner, someone's comfort's mirror. The roles dissolve, and what remains is something raw, uncertain, yet deeply real. At first, the silence may feel like abandonment. It choose. The ego, so used to being reflected back through another, panics in the absence of that familiar face. The mind grasps for connection, for a reason, for closure. But the soul knows. It knows that this rupture is sacred. It knows that something deeper is being born. You begin to ask the questions you once avoided. Who am I without them? What did I lose in loving them that I now have a chance to reclaim? What parts of me did I silence just to stay close? These questions are not intellectual. They are existential. They summon you inward, toward the forgotten chambers of your being. You start to see the masks you've worn, the roles you've performed, the compromises you've made in the name of love or belonging. And with each realization, another layer falls away. In this chamber there is no audience. There is no applause. Only the quiet confrontation with your own truth. You meet your fears without distraction. You face your patterns without excuse. You become intimate with your own contradictions. The comfort of dependency gives way to the power of self-possession. You are stripped bare, yes, But you are also being shaped into someone more honest, more whole, more aligned with your inner truth. This is not loneliness, it is solitude. And in that solitude, something miraculous begins to happen. You hear your own voice again. You remember your own dreams. You begin to feel, not what they wanted from you, but what your soul has always longed for. Individuation is not about isolation. It is not about pushing people away. It is about reclaiming your center so that any future connection is born from authenticity, not need. You no longer love to escape yourself. You love from a place of fullness. You no longer attach to fill a void. You connect to share what overflows. To let go of someone, then, is to walk through a spiritual fire that burns away illusion, and on the other side you do not emerge empty. You emerge real. You are no longer a fragment seeking another to complete you. You are the self, undivided, evolving, sovereign. Letting go was never about losing them. It was always about finding you. Certainly. Here's an expanded and more in-depth version of the third keynote. The shadow begins to heal. Without a heading, in the deeply introspective and spiritually transformative tone of Carl Jung, when you choose to let someone go, there is often a pain that feels disproportionate to the reality of their absence. It's as if something deeper is unraveling. Something older than the relationship itself. That turmoil, that inner disorientation. It is not just grief for the person, it is the voice of your shadow awakening. The shadow is not evil. It is not your enemy. It is the part of you that once cast away, hidden, or shamed. Often long before you ever met the person you're now releasing. The relationship may have simply acted as a stage where that shadow finally revealed itself. It showed up in your neediness, in your jealousy, in your silent resentment, your fear of being abandoned, your pattern of self-sacrifice. You thought it was all about them, but in truth, it was a mirror reflecting you, especially the parts you have yet to fully own. And so, when you let someone go, it is not just an act of separation. It is the beginning of integration. For the first time you are left alone what they once distracted you from yourself. You are forced to meet the fears you projected onto them. You are invited to confront the emotional debris you carried long before they arrived. Without the constant emotional entanglement, without the drama or the longing, you can finally turn inward and ask, what in me was so desperate to hold on? What old wound was I trying to heal through them? This is where true healing begins. Not in running from the shadow, but in sitting with it, listening to it, understanding it. You begin to realize that the anger you directed at them was actually your frustration at feeling powerless. That the heartbreak you feel now is not just about this person, but about every time you abandoned your own needs to be loved. You see the patterns, not to judge yourself, but to liberate yourself. And slowly the shadow begins to soften. It no longer screams for attention. It begins to speak in whispers of wisdom. You find compassion for your past self, the one who clung, who feared, who settled. You realize that you were never broken, only unaware. Each moment you hold space for your shadow without judgment is a moment of spiritual maturity. You are reclaiming your hidden aspects, drawing them into the light of consciousness, not to destroy them, but to transmute them into strength, clarity, and self-love. Letting someone go, then, is not just the end of a chapter. It is a descent into the underworld of your psyche, where healing takes root in the soil of truth. You go inward not to escape, but to embrace. You descend not to be lost, but to rise transformed. And when you emerge, you do not return as the same person who once begged for their affection, or feared their absence. You return as someone who knows themselves more intimately, who has faced the mirror of love and seen both the beauty and the wound. This is the silent miracle of letting go. The person leaves but the pain becomes purpose. The story ends but your inner healing begins, and the shadow once feared becomes your teacher. Of course, here's a deeper and more expansive version of the fourth keynote. The archetype of the wounded healer awakens. Without a heading, written in the soul-searching, mythic tone of Carl Jung's philosophy, in the quiet aftermath of letting someone go, once the waves of emotion have stilled and the silence sets in, you may begin to feel something unexpected. Something sacred stirring beneath the grief. It is not a numbness. It is not detachment. It is a quiet awareness rising from the deepest part of your being. It is the slow awakening of what Jung called the archetype of the wounded healer. You have been hurt. Letting go has torn open something tender in you. It has exposed not only the pain of losing them, but the hidden wounds that have lived within you long before they entered your life. Wounds from childhood, from betrayal, from abandonment, from being unseen or unheard. Their departure has touched these old scars and made them ache again. But this ache is not without purpose. This time, the pain is not here to destroy you, it is here to awaken you. The archetype of the wounded healer teaches us that our suffering is not meaningless, that what breaks us can also bless us. When you lean into your heartbreak instead of resisting it, when you allow the pain to speak instead of silencing it, you begin to access a sacred kind of wisdom, one that cannot be taught, only lived. You begin to understand suffering not just as a personal burden, but as a universal passage. You are no longer isolated in your pain, you are initiated by it. And through that initiation, you become more than someone who has survived. You become someone who can see. You see others differently. Their pain is no longer invisible to you. You recognize it in their eyes, in their words left unsaid, in their guarded smiles. Why? Because you have felt it too. The wound you carry becomes a doorway to deeper empathy, deeper connection, and deeper presence. What once felt like a curse becomes a channel through which compassion flows. And here lies the paradox of the wounded healer. You are healing not after the pain, but through it. The wound does not disappear, it transforms. It becomes a sacred mark, not of weakness but of initiation, and you carry it not with shame but with reverence. You stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and begin asking, "What is this trying to awaken in me?" In this stage of your spiritual evolution, your relationship to pain changes. You no longer fear it. You learn to sit with it, to listen to it, to gather its hidden truths. The very thing that once brought you to your knees now becomes the force that strengthens your soul. And perhaps, one day, without forcing it, your story will find someone else who is still in their darkness. Not to fix them, not to save them, but simply to hold a light and say, "I've been there. I see you. You're not alone." That is the gift of the wounded healer. Not perfection but presence. Not answers but depth. You become a vessel of healing. Not because you've never been broken, but because you've made peace with your brokenness. So when you let someone go, and you feel the wound open, do not rush to close it. Stay with it. Feel its depth. Honor its pain. Because from that place of sacred sorrow, something luminous is being born. Not in spite of the wound but through it. And in that moment, you will understand your heart did not break without reason. It broke open so something greater could come through. Certainly, here's an expanded, deeply reflective version of the fifth keynote. A new inner union is born. Without a heading, written in the spiritually rich and symbolic voice inspired by Carl Jung's work, when the letting go is complete. Not just in words, but in the quiet acceptance that sinks into your bones. You may feel a stillness unlike anything you've known before. It is not the silence of loneliness. It is the silence of reunion, of parts of yourself returning home after being scattered through your longing for another. You may not notice it right away. At first, it feels like a soft emptiness, a quiet space where the noise used to live, where anxiety once echoed, where hope and despair wrestled endlessly. But over time, something begins to stir in that space, something gentle, subtle, but profoundly sacred. It is the birth of a new inner union. For so long, you searched for completion in someone else. You sought in another what you had not yet given yourself. Validation, affection, understanding, security. You yearned for a mirror to affirm your worth, a hand to steady your heart. In doing so, you unknowingly split yourself, handing fragments of your essence to someone else in exchange for the illusion of wholeness. But now, through the pain of release, something beautiful begins to happen, the reunion of your own inner opposites. The sacred dance of the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine, starts to unfold within you. These are not gendered roles, but archetypal forces that live in every human soul. The anima brings softness, receptivity, intuition, and emotional depth. The animus brings structure, clarity, direction, and purpose. When we seek another to fulfill one of these energies for us, we remain dependent, incomplete. But when we integrate both within ourselves, we no longer need anyone to complete us. We choose who we love not from emptiness but from overflow. This inner marriage is not loud. It does not parade itself. It moves like a quiet strength beneath your ribs. You begin to trust yourself again. To guide yourself, to soothe yourself, to protect and nurture yourself as both mother and father, lover and friend, sovereign and soul. You stop begging the world to give you what you already carry. Your decisions grow clearer. Your boundaries firmer, yet rooted in compassion. You speak more gently to yourself. You stop abandoning your truth just to be accepted. You walk through the world not looking for someone to save you, but knowing that you have already been found by you. And this is the true miracle of letting go, that what you once sought outwardly has returned inwardly. You no longer ache for their presence because you are no longer absent from yourself. You feel safe in your own company. You feel whole in your solitude. You feel love, not as something to receive but as something you are. From this sacred inner union, new relationships, if and when they come, will feel different. They will not arise from desperation but from depth, not from fear of being alone, but from the joy of being seen by another soul while remaining whole within yourself. You will no longer merge. You will meet. You will no longer lose yourself. You will share yourself. This is the spiritual fruit of your pain. This is the treasure buried beneath your loss. This is the self returning to itself, united, integrated, and free. Letting go was never the end. It was the alchemy through which your soul remembered its completeness. And now, from the inside out, you are finally home. Letting go may feel like death, but spiritually it is rebirth. You are not losing someone. You are finding yourself. And in that sacred discovery you remembered you are not what you lost. You are what you rise into. Let them go, not in anger but in truth. Not in fear but in love. Because the self, the eternal self, awaits your return. I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. Carl Jung, thank you. Your journey inward has just begun.